y'all don't want to fund healthcare in this country, and then y'all are surprised when it's like, how come there aren't enough therapists for these transgender kids? Because y'all don't want to fund the fucking therapists. That's why. Why aren't there more processes around the procedures for transgender kids to get sex changes? It's because the healthcare system is gutted because you don't want to give it no fucking money.
Do you not think that we as a culture should tolerate the changes, or do you think we should?
No, I think we should ban the conversion of minors to people of the opposite sex, so to speak, if they're under 18. And I think we should restore their ability to sue medical professionals who dare to intervene.
Yeah, it's. I think people have very differing views. A lot of people just want to tolerate it and say this is fine.
Tolerate what? Tolerate what? Castration and double mastectomies for 13-year-olds?
Well, yeah,
no, seriously, man.
Yeah.
That's not tolerance. That's crossed the line. That is not tolerance. That is an inexcusable silence on the part of the majority, the vast majority, who knows this to be wrong in the deepest possible sense. Well, this whole, we're being compassionate and tolerant. It's like, no, you're not. You're aiding and abetting the surgical mutilation of minors. That is not compassionate, and it's not tolerant.
I know this may sound weird or counterintuitive to say, but I actually think that the reason why this is happening is because of anti-LGBTQ sentiment, ironically enough, actually, right? I think the fundamental reason why this conversation around sex transitions for people under 18 is so difficult is because there's a lack of healthcare infrastructure for these people, right? And I actually think that to an extent, the conversation around how old should someone be before they're allowed to change their sex biologically, right, is a broader healthcare problem, right? Like the United States has a lack of healthcare generally, right? Like let alone for LGBTQ people, right? And so I think that the lack of healthcare infrastructure in the United States, combined with, right, the fact that people don't want to even want to touch the issue, right? No one wants to discuss creating some sort of medical infrastructure around this stuff, right? And so because there's no medical infrastructure, right, and people don't want to actually talk about the issue, you have people who are just kind of freewheeling it. You have people who are kind of just winging it and, hoping that we get it right. I think that if people were more serious about the conversation when it comes to transgender people, generally speaking, right, we'd be able to, for example, create like some sort of network where doctors can share data with each other about how hormones affect people, for example, right? Maybe there's certain genetic things that people have that make it to where maybe they shouldn't start hormones until 15 instead of 12, right? Maybe you can speed up the process, right? Depending on your genetics. There might be certain people who can finish hormone therapy faster so they don't have to be on it for so long, right? Maybe there are some people who, because hormone blockers are like supposed to be reversible, maybe there are some people where it's not, right? It's not as reversible depending on their genetics, right? Shit like that would be great to know, right? But the only way we're gonna know that is if there's research behind it, right? If there's actually collaboration between the medical field and the government and states and legislatures and shit like that, right? Like, I totally understand that people are concerned about 12-year-olds, getting sex changes, right? I don't think that's crazy. That's fucking insane, obviously, right? But I guess what I would say to y'all is the fact that you don't take the idea of being transgender seriously, period, is a part of why this is happening, right? When you don't want to take the idea seriously at all, right, then you create a situation where there's no infrastructure for these people, right? There's no processes and procedures, right? And so then you have a situation where a child goes to their parents and says, hey, I think I'm a girl, right? Their son goes to their dad and says, hey, I think I'm a girl, right? And because there are so many anti-gay politicians in your state, right, there's no infrastructure socially or politically or financially for there's no funding available for research or counseling or medical assistance, and you have doctors who are not trained in this stuff, and then you have some states where like it's illegal to do it, right? Now all of a sudden, now you're in a tough situation. Now, right, you have states where some states will say, hey, like here, like you can do whatever you want, right? And then now you have situations where I've heard like situations where like kids have like ran away from home to go get sex changes and stuff like that. Like the reason shit like that happens is because there's a lack of infrastructure, right? And the lack of infrastructure comes from people not taking the idea seriously, right? You guys wonder why, like, it seems like people are just freewheeling this and that there's no rules and no structure. There's no rules and no structure because y'all don't want to talk about it, right? So what I would say is this, for the people who are worried about the issue of people under 18 getting sex transitions, right? I would say this, you were not wrong. You're not wrong at all. My personal opinion is that I am for everything when it comes to the transition process, except for that before 18. Everything else, I'm 100% for. I'm for hormone blockers, putting people on hormones, letting people change their names, like all that I'm totally for, right? I don't mind it at all, right? The one thing I don't support is sexual reassignment surgery. I think that I think you should, number one, you should be 18. You should be your own legal guardian. I also think that there should be like ongoing psychiatric evaluation just throughout your life, right? Like it should be a process. It shouldn't just be like an exam. It should be a process, right? But again, right, number one, the reason, you want to know why, for example, we don't have people who can help transgender people have psychiatric evaluations all throughout the process to make sure that everything is going smoothly, right? People don't want to fund the issue. People don't want to give money to the cause, right? That's why. And because it's so funny, like you'll have people who think to themselves like, how could we let these people who regret changing their sex do this? How could we as a country allow this, right? You want to know how we as a country could allow it? When you voted for a politician that voted against single-payer health care, right? When you think it's a waste of money, right, to teach people about LGBTQ education in schools. So the kids have no clue about anything. And the parents don't either. Right? Well, you think that the government shouldn't use your tax dollars, right, for entitlement programs and government spending. Right?
I found this on the web.
Sorry, that was my phone. Right? There's so many people out there who like are so against the government using tax dollars to create social programs, right? So many people who have been so against making healthcare cheaper, right? President Obama almost risked his political career to get fucking Obamacare passed. And there are people who fucking said it was the coming of Satan just for motherfuckers trying to make healthcare cheaper. You got people out there who feel like if we have a single-payer healthcare system, right, and the government subsidizes healthcare, that there are going to be people who die from not getting operations and all this crazy shit. Y'all are so against the government helping fund certain projects, especially when it comes to medicine, right? And I guess what? Mental health care is a part of healthcare, right? Y'all don't want to fund healthcare in this country, and then y'all are surprised when it's like, how come there aren't enough therapists for these transgender kids? Right? Because y'all don't want to fund the fucking therapists. That's why. Why aren't there more processes around the procedures for transgender kids to get sex changes? It's because the healthcare system is gutted because you don't want to give it no fucking money. Look, I'm a Democrat. That's the party I belong to. We have been arguing for either single payer healthcare or like very, very, very cheap healthcare and using tax dollars for that shit for like 20 fucking years. 20 years, right? And Republicans and conservatives have fought us every step of the way. You guys seriously don't think that the issues with the healthcare infrastructure in America that are about money, it's not about fucking the experts wanting to force your kids to get a vaccine. That's not what I mean when I say issues with the medical system. When I say issues with the medical system, I don't mean the fact that you got to get a vaccine to go to school. You need to get a fucking vaccine. What I mean is the fact that hospitals have to make money, and that affects the choices they make. And there are people out there who don't want to let us use fucking tax dollars to fund the medical system. You don't think that's connected to this shit? Of course it is, guys. Why would it not be? So look, man, all I'm going to say is this. The issue of sexual reassignment surgery for people under 18, right, is an LGBTQ healthcare issue. LGBTQ healthcare issues are a part of the broader issue of healthcare issues, period, and healthcare issues, period, are about the broader issue of the government being involved in processes when it comes to people's private life and being able to regulate things, right? Guess where that comes from? It doesn't come from the liberals, right? So look, if you are concerned about sex changes for people under 18, you are not wrong. I'm gonna say it again. You're not wrong, right? Like, people under 18 shouldn't be getting sex changes, right? But if you're going to talk about how you're concerned about that, something else I'd like you to do while you're doing that is to consider how, I don't know if you're that person, you might not be who I'm talking about. You may be someone who just thinks differently, right? But if you're someone who's against government spending and the government getting involved, consider how your ideology of not wanting the government to get involved creates a lack of infrastructure where there are no rules, right? And if there are no rules and no infrastructure, guess what happens? People do crazy shit. So, something for you guys to think about. Again, I don't want to, call you guys like bigots or anything because you think that's not true. Some of you are, but a lot of people aren't. I know people who support LGBTQ people but are concerned about that. So it's not an issue, right? I'm just saying, be mindful of how you're contributing, because a lot of y'all are contributing to this issue in a way that you don't consciously realize. So, something to think about.